AI is really all about augmenting your performance. Well, my name is Mikey Pruitt. I'm the partner evangelist at DNS Filter. So bad guys will generate tens or thousands of domains to use in their attacks. AI gave me back the word Hydra. I was like, wow, that's really good. But that customer service piece, there is not really much difference in the MSP space. We love the new shiny. We like to talk about our tech stack, block malware and crypto mining, and the customer doesn't care. They care about how they feel, but the leader is really setting the tone. So if you're the type of person that badmouths the customer, your staff is going to pick up on that, and they are going to use your tone to your customers, and that is something you don't want. It's more like the internet than it is the cloud. If things go the happy path, AI will do most of our work, and we'll get to sit at home. In the near term, just try it. Start with easy stuff like marketing content. AI is really good at giving you messaging that resonates with your ICP.
Welcome to this episode of MSP Insider. Welcome back. And I'm excited for who we get to dive in with today. And the guest for the show today is Mikey, and he is going to help me drop some bombs on some topics that really hit home for me. And before we dive in, before we go in any further, Mikey, why don't you please tell the audience who you are, what you do, and why the hell that you do it?
Well, my name is Mikey Pruitt. I'm the partner evangelist at DNS Filter. We do DNS filtering. Love that we can just kind of get away with the company name. I really enjoy the work that I do, which is basically helping partners kind of understand kind of the ins and outs of our platform, and really just getting to make connections. That's really the fun part of my job. And I kind of smooth any rough edges that pop up that can creep up in the space. So that's really what my role is. I'm kind of like a sales engineer that does marketing. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does to me, at least. Being from the space, I can definitely see how that comes through and is necessary too. So the format for the show that we use, Mikey, is kind of a double blind date. Honestly, there's at the end of every show, I ask the prior guest to leave behind a question for the next guest, and then I start the show off with their question so that we kind of just launch straight into an organic conversation, and then we continue the conversation from there. So
I'm very scared.
Yeah, no, lucky for you, you did not have Dean's answer or Dean's question. So you're off the hook a little bit there. The question that you get is comes from Sagar Pandya, and he's with Intiva. He's the head of AI and digital enablement for their MSP and their platform. And his question was, if there's one thing that you could tell your employees or staff that's going to get them excited to want to talk about AI tomorrow, what would that one thing be?
I think the one thing would be that AI, the way it stands now, there may be a future where none of us have jobs. But as it stands now, AI is really all about augmenting your performance. It can increase your output, with quality checks along the way. You can have really good output with the current state of AI, the current tools available. So I think my one thing would just be to get your feet wet with AI, start doing something with it. Where you used to start with Google query, start with AI instead and see what happens.
Yeah, and to treat it as a conversation, right? It doesn't just stop with question asked and answer given. I think that's a really important mindset shift when you start to interact with AI. Is it's not linear and it's not binary. It's literally a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the strengths, is that, it has human-like qualities. It's not like it can kind of fake pass the Turing test,
right?
But it's fake. It's, the culmination of human experience on the internet, and it's trained on that. So it can kind of simulate human interaction.
Yeah.
But having that conversation really gets you to a place greater than where you started at in a lot of cases. I'm obviously a huge fan of AI.
Yeah.
use a lot of things, and you can start with, a brain dump. I would recommend, we're going to give AI tips here.
Yeah.
My recommendation is to give it a job, a role. You are this, and you speak in this way, and you interact with me in this way. And I've got a coworker that makes that his AI end every conversation with a dad joke. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, the conversation's over, and it will remember, and it'll give him a terrible dad joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, give it some parameters, what your
Mhm.
expectations are, and start with your brain dump, and then see where that goes, and then
Yeah.
ultimately get to the goal outcome that you're trying to reach.
Yeah. And I've also found too, and it took me a long time to figure this one out, is like sort of this process of elimination mindset too, where give it the restrictions as much as give it the gloves off portion too, right? So in other words, uh, here's the brain dump, here's what I want, here's who you are, here's the outcome I'm looking for, but don't include this, don't do this. Like here's not really like the boundaries per se, but you can really refine like the scope of the dialogue that you're going to have. And so much so that the thing I've found I use it for almost more than anything else is an interactive mirror, right? Like it's not almost even about the AI, it's about the leveraging the AI to have a conversation with me to make my thoughts more refined, to make my perspectives shift, to lean into like my own ability to deeply or critically think, um, and to like be able to adjust AI as an infinite amount of coworkers that I need to bounce an idea off of.
Yeah, exactly. I did this just yesterday. So working at DNS Filter, I ask a lot of questions about DNS, and one
Mm-hmm.
I worked on yesterday was, some common pitfalls that firewalls don't catch
Mm-hmm.
that kind of relate to DNS, and it gave me like very standard things that were boring, I guess would be a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
word. I'm like, come on,
Uh-huh.
Chat GPT or
Right.
Perplexity or Claude or whatever. Like, all right, so these are the three things that I'm thinking about. Let's work on those and replace these three that are boring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like the ability to refine the voice that it has is it's almost I've started using it as kind of the same thing of like removing writer's block, right? So staring at a blank screen with a cursor and writer's block's like that thing where you're just kind of paralyzed. Similar thing, like get the dialogue going, do a brain dump, start conversing with it a bit, and then you can start to refine it. Like you're saying, is like, man, I don't want this to be dry as shit like that. I want it to be hilarious. I want it to be comical. Maybe you should say a dad joke. How can you turn a DNS conversation into a dad joke and start to bring
Ooh.
real personality to
Hold
it?
on, let me write that down.
Yeah.
Dana's dad
Yeah,
jokes.
DNS dad jokes, and just like make the correlation. One of the things that I love doing in my prompt too, and it may not be how I start the conversation, but when I'm really digging into something more technical or a topic I have no idea really about, like I have no domain expertise over this thing, but I need to dig into it, I'll just use the hack of explain it to me like I'm five, right? So like
Yeah.
put all my everything in. It can even give me all this other stuff out, and I'm like, I don't understand a damn thing that is on this page.
You're like
And it,
Eli 3.
exactly. Like, let's break this thing down, please. And those are like the little tips and tricks that I think most people that interact with AI are somewhat missing out on, right? Because then you're just sort of like left in this meh category of
Yeah.
interacting with it, and it's like, no, like bend it and shape it to something and someone you actually want to have a conversation with.
Yeah, one of the things, and this is like, the brilliance of AI. um
Yeah.
the one of the things I was trying to create content around was DGAs, which is domain generated algorithms. So bad guys can generate tens or thousands of domains to use in their attacks.
Yeah.
And they can be, looks like your cat type on your keyboard, but they don't care what the domain is. They just need a domain that's
Mm.
probably cheap to own, perhaps free, like one of those .tks or gg's or whatever.
Yeah.
Generate tens of thousands of those, register them so that they are actually working domains on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And the AI gave me back the word Hydra to describe this, like a multi-headed
Yeah.
monster. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, wow, that's really good. Like I gave it some brain dump on that, and
Yeah.
then it came back with this Hydra metaphor, and I
Right.
was like, that's going in the article.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. And like,
So you might read that one on our blog tomorrow.
right, and see it and feel it. And I think it's a great point. It's really tactical and practical. So like the other thing I would say to your point on like just dialogue through, brain dump it and let it be a little bit creative. But let's say it came back with Hydra and you're like, but our brand is Formula One, right? So it's like, okay, take the same concept but wrap it to Formula One, or like whatever the context is that you need to like strip that last mile and run that last mile together to make it correlate. Not saying that Hydra's off brand, but like just that practical use case of like someone might be like, well, Hydra, I can't put that in my marketing for XYZ reasons, right? It's off brand or whatnot. It's like, okay, great. Feed it some more context so that it can be on brand, and it'll take the same thing and bring it so much closer to home. And again, I think it's the part where maybe people get allergic to the work a little bit because we're looking at it as an output mechanism, like an end result mechanism, but it's not. It's like a creator's paradise. Absolutely. Yeah. So interesting. All right. Well, we cheated a little bit because we started running ahead, which is fantastic because I think there's a bunch of good stuff there. The only preparation we do for these things is I ask each guest to give me 3 topics that I'll start to get them a little bit unhinged here in the MSP space that is where we live. And the 3 topics that you had was customer service customer service over technology, right? And prioritizing that. AI's impact denial, which we will dig into when we started covering just slightly, and then really pricing fears and like the age-old adage of MSPs drastically and vastly undervaluing their services. So the first one I want to dive into, because this is also incredibly near and dear to my heart based on my experience in the MSP times, because I spent 18 years doing that, is the customer service paradox. I think first and foremost, MSPs, where most get it wrong is that they think of themselves as a tech company or technology company rather than a service company. So like that's maybe doorway number 1 that they need to walk through. But I've heard and I've seen that you've been vocal about MSPs differentiating through exceptional service delivery rather than the tech stack. I was hoping maybe you could unpack that for me.
Yeah, sure. It's funny. I was just thinking of the word unpack. Let me unpack that.
Yeah.
Let me double click on that.
Right.
So let me go back into my kind of backstory a little bit. My family owns an electrical contracting company, which I worked at for many years. I have like a master's electrical license. Just changed a breaker out of my panel yesterday because the dishwasher was acting up. It's a really handy skill to have.
Yeah.
And in that line of work, in conjunction with that, I also did like just technology, freelancing, and web development, like all along. So I've done these 2 things for the majority of my life, my career, I guess you could say. So in that business, it's owned by my father, with very minimal employees, like maybe less than 10, usually it fluctuates. But in that industry, blue collar work, it's very hard to get people to even like show up or call you back. Like, have you ever had something break or needed something repaired? You know, everyone in the audience has had this experience where it's hard to get a contractor to be, I don't want to be rude, but like just
go for it.
Professional, I guess is a way to put it.
Yeah.
So my whole mission in that was to be professional. I was like, well, this is such an easy place to win in. All you have to do is let the customer know what to expect. Then excel at what they're doing, do it quickly, clean up after yourself, like super simple stuff. And they were amazed because we were on time. We would like send pictures of ourselves, like this is who's coming to your house, should take between this hour and this hour. And we were, you know, just methodical about how we would project ourselves to the customer. Clean, good uniforms. I like to design things. So it was like a lot of like lightning bolts on stuff. Trucks are, you know, all wrapped and all that stuff. And this was like new to my dad. It's like when I really started working on at the company, I like had all these ideas, and he was kind of like, I don't know, this is a lot of money, or like, you know, do we really need to wrap the trucks? Like all this stuff. But the result of that was the feedback from customers that were previous customers and new customers that were just really excited to call us back if something else broke, they needed help with additional services. Like we ended up getting into networking and like home automation type of stuff. So a lot of that, you know, turned into like an MSP style business, but with homeowners and with, you know, structured wiring, things like that. But that customer service piece was the differentiator for my family's electrical contracting company. And there is not really much difference in the MSP space because like you said, they are a service-based industry. Now, we love the new shiny. We like to talk about our tech stack. We can
Mm-hmm.
block malware and crypto mining and botnets and all that stuff
Yeah.
is sexy, is a good word.
Right.
But the customer doesn't care. They
Mm-hmm.
care about how they feel, one thing, which is something that a lot of people miss, but they also
Yeah.
care about the end result,
Mm-hmm.
mostly the end result. Like they don't really care how you get there. It's like a movie, I think it was Snatch. It's like, don't
Yeah.
bother me with the details, just
Mm-hmm.
tell me when they're done.
Yep.
And if you can do that efficiently and basically get out of their way, they're going to appreciate you more. Like be attentive when it's time to be attentive. And when
Mm-hmm.
they don't need you, be in the background, ready to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such an amazing point that, like, I don't know how to drive it home any more flagrantly than like just shake my camera maybe so that the screen feels like it shakes. Because if there's any one principle that I was able to distill down the success of the MSPs that I worked with or for, was ultimately that, right? Like we placed client experience above everything else. And even using that particular word, where experience was the word we used
Mm-hmm.
internally, not service. Well, if you think about what's the difference, like experience is the thing that they felt like and that they take away from the service that was being delivered. So like we even shifted, right, the focus to outside our four walls versus inside our four walls. We can control the process and the procedure and the mechanics and the choreography of how we delivered service, but we did so that we delivered an experience to the end user that was like, holy shit, I want to call that person again. Or if anyone had a problem, like, you need to go call Mikey because Mikey did this, this, and this. Like, I even knew Paul was the guy that was going to show up to the house. And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Paul showed up at the house and looked like Paul from the picture. And he smiled and he wore little booties on his feet. And like, just minding the little tiny details is such a easy thing to do that you have complete control over, that will have asymmetric upside results in return for your business.
Yeah, and how do you translate into the MSP space? Like MSPs do sometimes have to like roll a truck. Like that
Mm-hmm.
is a thing that MSPs still do. They're
Yeah.
working on site. They could do structured cabling type of stuff. They could do printers, like all the wireless access points. They could do that
Yeah.
physical infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also this other whole arm of the company where that support arm comes into play. Like, how are your support technicians interacting with your customers? And
Mm-hmm.
I've actually seen a few MSPs that reward their staff based on the feedback from their customers.
Yeah.
And that really sets the bar
Mm-hmm.
on, how to excel, how to, career advance at this MSP,
Mm-hmm.
is that your customers have to rave about you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you use the word rave too, because when you were first talking about ultimately the experience that the consumer is used to, right? Like we're used to people being
It's
late,
easy to
to
win.
not call. Yeah, like the bar is so low. And that's where I agree with your analogies. Like MSP is too. I used to say this at multiple MSPs I was at. We used to have meetings around the conference room table talking about like the recipe to win is to suck a little less than the next guy and to stay in business longer. Like that's how low the bar seems to be set for the most part in the industry. And so some of the principles that we grabbed was actually from the book Raving Fans. And I don't know, it's page like maybe 9, 11, somewhere in the
Get
very
to the point.
beginning,
Good.
right? And it's just like, it essentially says the same thing. Like, hey, look, service is so abysmal across the board that the consumers have just accepted this to be reality. It's not what they want, but it is what they've accepted. So like people have settled for meh so long that they've forgotten what holy shit feels like. And if you deliver something above meh, it doesn't even have to be holy shit, right? And actually, Dean and I talked pretty extensively about this. Like, only dial it up and crank it up to the level that you consistently can deliver at,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't need to be wow every single time, but it does need to be better than meh. But it also needs to be consistent so that you
Yeah. As
can
long as
really
the
impart
uh,
that.
yeah, as long as the baseline is higher than your
Yeah.
average MSP, and a lot of the competition is like a guy that knows about computers or a gal that knows about
Mm-hmm.
computers or like a two-man shop. Like if you're a 10, 20-person MSP, like you have a significant advantage over the majority of the market.
Yeah.
And I have one more point about this is the leader of the organization could be
Mm-hmm.
the owner, founder, could be an executive, depending on the size of the MSP.
Yeah.
Like they're really setting the tone. And
Mm-hmm.
I say this next part because my dad's probably never going to watch this,
Yeah.
is that my dad, brilliant mind in electricity. not so big on like customer service, like doesn't quite understand. He's like,
Hmm.
do you want to buy it? Do you not want to buy it? Like,
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
kind of into sales.
Hmm.
But the leader is really setting the tone. So if you're the type of person that,
Mm.
not that the customer's always right, but if you're the type that kind of badmouths the customer to your staff, like, oh, I can't believe, or you're like, what is it? Problem between
Oh
keyboard
yeah,
and user.
Pebcac or
Yeah,
whatever.
that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
So like if you're the type that like espouses that kind of principles, your
Mm,
staff is going to pick up on that, and they are going to use your tone to
mm,
your customers, and that is something you don't want. So you need
yeah.
to change your mindset on the customer is valuable in that they, obviously they provide you revenue, livelihoods for you and your staff, but
Hmm.
they're, just people with a problem. Approach
Yeah.
them like you would approach them if you were, say, a concierge at a hotel.
Mm,
You want to get them to the end result that they're looking for, promptly. And then if you do it quickly and efficiently, they're out of your way and you can move on to the next one. So
yeah.
like it's okay to be efficient in this mindset, but when you're interacting with that customer and with your staff about a customer,
Hmm.
like be very gracious to them.
Yeah.
Very gracious.
Yeah, I love that you used the hotel example, even right, because it was maybe like MSP number 3 or so. We actually hired the consulting company that consults with Ritz Carlton on their hospitality training to come
Yeah.
in and overhaul how we delivered service all the way down to that level. And there's a really important word there, and that is hospitality. It's like what we've sort of talked about, I would say, is like the table stakes of what you need to be doing is deliver at a service level, right? Not a technician's level or at an electrician's level, but like a service level baseline. But if you really want to one up your competition, then pay attention to hospitality and go learn and steal from that industry, because that
Hmm.
entire industry is built around how they make people feel, right? Whether it's like the Disney experience or it's the Ritz Carlton or it's a 5-star restaurant. There's so much value that you don't have to reinvent just by adapting and adopting easy to win ideas from the hospitality industry. And that was just one experience that we had as well. And it came
Yeah,
down to the
I
tiny
could get real
stuff.
deep on hospitality. I won't, but
Yeah.
I live in a very touristy area,
Okay.
not like Cancun, Mexico, but
Yeah. Yeah.
near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina,
Okay.
which is a very popular tourist destination.
Hmm.
Dirty Myrtle, we call
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But hospitality is very prevalent here, and it's very easy to see the differences between people that care.
Yeah.
That's really it, just care. And when I was young, like teenager, obviously I had to work in like hotels and restaurants and
Yeah.
things like that because that's all there was.
Hmm.
But yeah, like all you have to do is have a little bit of care, and the leader showing that care
Yeah.
will translate into your support tech staff, also delivering that care.
Yeah, absolutely. It really, what you're saying reminds me of the you get what you tolerate mentality, right?
Yes, that's
And
a good
so,
way to put it.
to your point, if you're the guy who slams the phone after you just talked to a client and talked about how shitty of a client that client is, guess how all 18 people that just watched and listened to you talk about
Yep.
that with your client are going to act and respond when a client calls and needs help. It's like, God,
Not just that client, but probably
yeah,
all of them.
every client. Yeah. So that's such an important thing. I'm glad that you called out. If there is an MSP watching right now, which I know that there are, right? And they're still convinced that their special, unique snowflake tech stack is the thing that actually matters, what evidence would you show them that they're wrong?
Well, there's a lot of talk about the MSPs being a commodity, like a race to the bottom on
Mm-hmm.
pricing, which we'll get to later. But the tech stack is not the important piece. How do you prove that to an MSP? You give them two doors, two sales calls, let's say. One is you go in there and you just pitch the tech stack like this product does this and that product does this, name the products and all this stuff, and see what happens as a result of that conversation. Versus another conversation is where you talk about the benefits of you being the backstop for their IT needs and just being a resource if they need. And obviously, you'll do all that other stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but you'll be there to hold their hand and give them care, give them support where needed, and just see where those two conversations go. Like just run a test on yourself. Just
Yeah.
send the same salesperson out, yourself even, and just see what happens in different conversations. Like run an A/B test. It's
Hmm.
We're
Yeah.
technical, like A/B testing.
Right.
We can understand logic.
Yeah. And you're
So
going to have the conversations anyway, right? Or have the opportunity to have a conversation anyway.
yeah.
So yeah, no better feedback than direct feedback. I love that idea. Um, let's talk a little bit now about resistance to the AI awakening in our space. You've been particularly passionate about MSPs who are in denial about the fact that AI is going to have an impact or is having an impact. It's not even going to. It's literally here already today. One of the recent conversations that I'd even seen was the AI powered MSP event, and talking about really kind of like where we are and where we're going. What percentage of today's MSP tasks do you believe will be completely automated by AI within 24 months?
So there's like these levels of autonomy with vehicles, like a self-driving Tesla or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it goes from like L0 to like L5 or something. L5 being the completely autonomous, makes its own decision, and L0 being like the human does everything, like no AI included. On that scale, you kind of want to be in the middle on most things, where there's a human at the helm that can, kind of direct the AI.
Yeah.
And then certain things need to be a bit more autonomous. Things like support on your website. Like we've all seen those chat bots on websites, and the bots that have been there in the last few years are kind of mediocre. Like, well, just be honest, they're terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, this is like, you don't want to hide that it's a bot. But the AI bots now, with their, human simulation capabilities, still don't pretend it's a person, but it can like set sales calls for you. It can communicate with the customer, get the information you need, like contact information, perhaps set up a sales call, interact with your calendar to set that sales call. And then let's face it, we kind of become a bot, a human bot, where we are just dictated to, the AI is kind of dictating our job, which is not a bad reality, but it is a different reality.
Sure.
So you can automate things that are tedious. The things that are tedious can be more automated, but there's still a human in the loop scenario that's really important, especially when that direct communication with MSPs are. And I think the resistance comes in on the new thing. And I actually, again, I relate to my dad.
Yeah.
When I was young, he had like the first computer, the first beeper. Like this is in the 80s,
Sure.
The first cell phone. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. And he was like that too. He was like, wow, look at this. You can play a hangman on this screen. This is crazy. It's black and green or amber or whatever it was. And, as time goes on, now he's like in his, retirement kind of ages, and he's, the new technology is not really, he doesn't care as much. So I see a lot of MSPs in my dad. Like I feel like they're very similar personalities or characters in a way, where they're not, reaching for new technologies, because we've seen this so many times over and over again, like, oh, the cloud, oh, virtualization, all this stuff. And now there's this new thing, AI, great. Like what's like a fad. But I think AI is more like the internet than it is the cloud. Because if things go in a, the happy path, AI will do most of our work, and we'll get to sit at home. Like this is our, this is a, 50 years from now, maybe, I don't know, but an infinite timeline, AI is doing everything. But in the near term, just try it and start with like easy stuff. Like how we were talking about earlier, like marketing content. Like AI is really good at giving you messaging that resonates with your ICP.
Yeah. And the hardest, or the limiting factor there is like, if you haven't defined your ICP, why don't you have the conversation with AI to help you get there, right? And you can strip away all the things that maybe don't compute because you've never had to really think through a marketing brain before. So tell it to act as the expert marketer and just have a conversation with you and ask you the questions that you need to answer to help enable and empower it to refine the messaging on your behalf, and just enter the conversation with it, right? And then as it gets down further into that process, then you end up in a thing where it's like, okay, well, now give me the output. And like, does the output pass the tummy test is kind of the way that I talk about it. Is like, is this like gut instinct? Like, man, that sucked. Or I can't see myself saying that. And so, okay, I still need to work on it until I get to the point where it's like, that is exactly how I talk or how I should talk to the prospective clients or the business. And that kind of highlights the point we mentioned earlier too, where like stop thinking in a, I don't want to call it like two-dimensional world, but like in that binary world of like Google search in, result out, I'm done because the process is finished. It's like it's such a collaborative experience
Mm-hmm.
and like an evolution of the body of work that, keep chiseling away, I guess might be another analogy too, until you
Yeah,
get it right.
that's a good way to put it. And I
Yeah.
think there's two like low hanging fruit areas that we can use AI today. Like
Mm-hmm.
there is this, fanciful future where AI is like doing all of our software updates
Mm-hmm.
and running a bunch of stuff, but I don't think we're quite there yet. There are solutions out there that kind of help with that.
Yeah.
Sift is one. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if, you guys are making some automations possible that weren't possible before with
Yeah.
AI. But the two easiest places are what we've been talking about, which is like marketing, communication,
Mm-hmm.
emails, sales call scripts, cold
Yeah.
calling scripts, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. But the other one is reasoning, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of there's some new reasoning models that can. I don't want to bash on middle managers, but
Sure.
there's a layer in most organizations that kind of set the parameters. They say like, we're going to go after this. They get a mandate from some leadership team, a
Mm-hmm.
leader, a team, and then they go figure out how to execute. Like, what are the
Yeah.
actions, what are
Right.
the details?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's reasoning models that can search the web, do hundreds of queries, reason with itself over and over again and iterate on your very basic brain dump,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of give you a plan. And I've worked on this with previous AI, like ChatGPT, regular chat type of stuff, or Claude,
Mm-hmm.
and it's good. Like, it can give you a plan. But the new reasoning models, like Gemini has one, ChatGPT has one, but it's pretty expensive. But it can give you those details on what
Yeah.
to do. Like, you can give it information like, I want to increase revenue by 10%. Here's some of our company information. This
Mm-hmm.
is our ICP. Obviously, you have to work on that stuff first, but what should we do? And just like kind of leave it open ended, and it can come back with a reasonable plan, which you
Yeah.
can then iterate on.
Right. Yeah. It's a great tactical and practical example of eliminating writer's block and having something to start with. Right. And that's, I think, maybe a really important point too, is not thinking of it as a personal replacement for those things, but it gets you so much further down the path of what success could look like. And then you layer the human part back on top of it, and you're like, okay, I can look at this plan and be like, no, based off of this experiential knowledge that there no language model would have, like, we need to adjust here, connect this dot to that one. And yet, that's where you should be spending your time, is like unleashing the ability for, David Powell calls it like the human discernment element of it, is like, what do you still need to smooth it out with, or make it yours uniquely, right? Or imprint your DNA. I can have a bunch of different
Yeah.
analogies for it, but it's a hell of a lot easier to do that from something than it is from nothing. And the other part to that, maybe to add a little flavor of how like I interact and work with it, I'll take like a known time tested framework or principle and bring that into the context of the conversation too, and then have the brain dump be measured up against that framework first, right? And then give me that deliverable so that I know it's not just like strung together language words from the model that make it sound decent. It's like, no, it's anchored in either the psychology of this thing, or the sociology, or the behavioral psychology component of this thing. It's just so much tighter of a first draft, if you will, to then have
Yes.
a great thinking exercise off of, because the methodology you used to get to this result is like time tested from the last 100 years.
Yeah. Like, you think if you were to hire, a business consultant of some sort, or like
Hmm.
one of those really, really pricey agencies. They
Yeah,
would
yeah,
come back with like a plan and details and, or, was it McKinsey is the one,
yeah. That's one. Yeah.
Booz Allen or somebody like that.
Hmm.
Like this is the level of planning that a research AI can give you.
Hmm.
And, it's the cost of a monthly subscription to most of these things.
Yeah.
So it would be silly not to try it.
Right.
And like you say, it's a great first draft. You put the human back in there and you collaborate, use the AI to like start the conversation with your team. Like, what are we going to do in 2025?
Hmm.
What does our trajectory look like?
Hmm.
And what is our goal and how do we get there with our current trajectory? Do we need to change it? Do we need to adjust knobs and here and there?
Hmm.
And have the AI help you start thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the capstones I'd place on that is like time and time again, I'd see MSPs like pay consultants or invest in solutions then that they are then unwilling to accept the advice of, right?
Yeah.
And so this could be a shortcut to that same concept where it's like spend more of your time doing the thing that will drive success, which is executing the plan versus trying to solve the problem. Like most of the problems that we experience as MSPs already have a solution out there, whether we are aware of it or know of it or are willing to pay for it or any of that. We we somehow sort of get like drunk in the dopamine of fixing the problem, right? Like I want to be the one to solve it because it's in our nature as problem solvers. But think about how much further you could go and how much faster if instead you actually paid attention to the solution's already there. I'm going to put my energy, the same amount that I would have put into solving the problem, into just executing the solution and getting to the next problem, right? Because problems don't ever go away. You just get to new ones or different ones or whatever anyway. Those are the things, maybe to your point about bringing in like a business consultant. Well, you can really get 80% of the way there by having the right conversation with AI at this point, too.
Yeah, there's the way that you can iterate is kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So think of if you've ever hired like a designer, like maybe you had a website or whatever,
Yeah.
and you didn't want to tell that designer, like, I kind of like this other color blue,
Mm-hmm.
or I think the text is too small, like things that are nitpicky.
Yeah.
So in this scenario, you can tell the AI all of that stupid stuff
Mm-hmm.
that a designer would come back and be like, ugh, like eye roll. I
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
change this blue to darker blue.
Yep.
It doesn't care. The AI
Yeah.
is a computer. It doesn't care. That's what it's there for.
Mm-hmm.
So you can then take this maybe 80-20, like it's got 80% of the way there, like a business consultant.
Yeah.
Even take their, if you do hire someone, take what they gave you, run it through some AI to iterate, make revisions, and
Mm-hmm.
to use it as a base,
Right.
and collaborate with your team and yourself to iterate on that. And that's
Mm-hmm.
also another good point where most MSPs have processes that are working, that are profitable, like perhaps business units specifically that are making great strides. They're growing, they're
Yeah.
healthy, and they have processes that are in
Mm-hmm.
place. And don't, I wouldn't say disrupt those processes,
Yeah.
but take that process into a thinking AI that can then iterate on that and make tweaks to it, maybe in like a separate chain, perhaps
Mm-hmm.
just as a test.
Yeah.
So, like, this business unit is working really good. This is the process that we use. How
Mm-hmm.
can we improve it? And then, kind of as an offshoot test, like branching in code bases. I don't know
Yeah.
if you're familiar with
Yep.
that or the audience is, but like a Git branch.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to branch off a little bit and you're going to test this new path and measure them and
Mm-hmm.
which one is performing better. Maybe you jump to the new path. The new
Yeah.
branch is actually more successful, more resilient. And that's the funny thing about processes is the ones that you keep doing over and over again
Mm-hmm.
are the resilient ones, the ones that are
Yeah.
working.
Right.
And what you should do is take those and work to improve them.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
what's working in a sales call, like when you say a certain phrase and the prospect's eyes light up
Mm-hmm.
and you hit something that really means something to them, you know,
Yeah.
work on that, iterate on that line of thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And it's so important to just like, Kyle Christensen always says like dare to suck. It's more or less just like be okay knowing that you aren't going to be perfect at the thing that you're trying for the first time and like give yourself permission to just go explore like a kid. right? Kids make mistakes all the time. It's also how they learn. It's how they grow. Like you're going to suck at anything you're just starting at. So the most important thing to do is like just start, because one, it's not going away. Two, other people have already started. And three, the pace at which and the distance at which people can get by having started is going to be one of those um, distances that you're not going to be able to close the gap, right? I do believe you when you had said, right, is this the difference between cloud or the internet, right? And having it be a lot closer to the invention of the internet versus just an evolution or an improvement to the cloud. I believe that to be true as well. And I'm seeing it every single day in my own personal experience, let alone the customers that we're serving. So,
yeah, and exploring the way you put that is brilliant, because, and we were talking about this a bit before our conversation, like MSPs, whether you're the founder or you're a big MSP that has like executive teams and things like that, like someone started kind of accidentally this business. They're good at something. They decided to make a business around it. And you did some things that you had no idea how to do, like accounting and finance and hiring and being a founder, being a manager. Like you had no idea how to do a lot of that stuff. And you took some steps to improve yourself in weak areas, or hired people that could supplant your faults. And just think of AI as this other arm that you can exercise to get more answers, more information, more ingestion of ideas. It's not gonna like run your help desk yet.
Right. But like just get out there and familiarize yourself with it. And to your point, like it's just start exploring. I like the word exploring, because like I think we have a tendency to feel things like pass or fail, right? Like, and failure is one of those things that we're adversely attached to. And so that's one of the reasons why we lean away. It's the same reason why we hold on to a ticket way too long when we shouldn't have, and we didn't escalate it, and we didn't ask for help, and the customer's pissed, right? It's because we associate it with failure, even though asking for help's not failing. But that same like intrinsic thing that we have in this space, I think, is the thing that makes us adverse to change and to new things that come along, which is probably a fantastic transition too, talking about things we're adverse to the third point, which I'm spending the last 8 years of my MSP journey on the sales and marketing and growth side. I love this topic because I had to deal with it all day, every day. And that was something that should be deeply personal to every single one of the MSPs that's out there. And that is the fear of charging what you're actually worth. So to dive into that one, maybe start with, like, why are so many MSPs acting like nonprofit organizations when it comes to their pricing model?
I think a lot of the people that run MSPs, like, I'm not trying to be offensive, but are immature in their business life, and myself included, probably you included, like most of the people watching this, like, you have to start somewhere. And that maturity level of just business acumen is sometimes poor. So if we can start off with pricing that gives us space, gives us room to be able to breathe, instead of just getting business, like, oh, I need this, I need that, I got a family to take care of, I've got, bills to pay, and I need income of some sort. And a lot of times this adventure, MSP adventure, is a huge risk for people. So it's scary. And we, like you said, we are averse to risk. So you have to set your pricing in a way that is on the cusp of offensive to your clients. I think that's a good way to put it. Like, how much will they pay for you to do this thing? You have to find it. And that is different in different markets, is different for different capabilities. So there's a lot of variables that go into this equation. But again, like, just testing pricing is a good way. And do this test in a sales call, be firm on whatever the number is, 200 a seat or 300 a seat or whatever. I see a lot of people that are just desperate to get the close, that they're not valuing what they're worth.
Absolutely. the big lesson that I learned early on in my transition from being on the tech side to the sales side was also to not sell from my own wallet, right? Kind of to your point about being confident in the price you're commanding. I mean, at 22, 23 years old, sitting there negotiating $40,000 a month agreement kind of things, like those numbers are insane when you're comparing it to what a level 2 technician made, which was me, right? Like not that many years before. And yet that's just psychology taking you out of the deal before you even had a chance to win. Whereas if you look at it completely differently, maybe, I mean, a $40,000 deal is a big ass company, right? Or at least really value stacked solution. So like not looking at that through my perspective of money, but looking at it through the perspective that they had, right? It's just, I don't know, 1/5% of the budget somewhere. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, all right. So the other point I wanted to make is I really liked that you made it is you may not know what that number is, right? And it's magical and it feels ethereal and you don't know where it, like to plan it is. I guarantee you that it's above whatever you're charging today, period, in the story.
Yeah,
like
almost certainly.
Yeah, going out there and just doing it, period, and starting somewhere and feeling your way through it and figuring out there's more responsible ways to do it. But I at least with 100% confidence can tell you it's more than what you're charging today. The MSPs
Yeah. So here's the game that I want MSPs to play with themselves. The next sales call that you go on, quote 10% higher than you did the last time, just to see what happens. And obviously you now have room to negotiate with that 10%. Maybe you end up with 5, maybe you end up with 7. And then do that every few months, ratchet up the price and see where that threshold is of what clients are willing to pay. And again, it's different in different geos, different services. So keep all that in mind, but start by ratcheting it up at least 10%.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest mistake, pricing mistake specifically, that you see MSPs make today?
I think a lot of them make it convoluted, and a lot of vendors have this problem. What does it cost? Like, we just want to know, what does it cost? And that's, back in my days of electricity, that's the number one question. It's the number one question we get at DNS Filter. How much does it cost?
Right.
And the answer is it depends, but it would be really nice to start with a number. If you look at, I've ever seen like YouTube videos of people negotiating on car prices, which I really love. People on the phone are like, oh yeah, I can't do 27. All right, 30. I'll throw in my Corvette or whatever. Those are great to watch, but give a number that you're comfortable with. And then that's just the start of the conversation. But have a number to give.
Right. I can't remember who made me come up with this at some point or said it to me as well, but early on in my my progression into sales, is like, you need to get out of bed number, right? And that should be the floor for the qualification entry, even into like the sales pipeline for any of your prospects, right? It's like, what is your get out of bed number? And like really figure that out, because then you at least have a decent baseline. Like if you're really kind of lost in the sauce of, I don't know where to price, I got this long ass tail of 20-year history with clients and everyone's priced different, yada, yada, yada. Like then you're probably ripe for that level of thought exercise too. Is if someone was going to bring you a customer today, what's the number that you'd get out of bed for to go have the conversation about signing that client on a monthly basis, right? And there's no wrong answer. Well, there are some wrong answers probably, right? You don't want to lose the money, but like there's no right answer necessarily, because it's different for everybody, but there's certainly a floor that you're going to need to cover. But that's also why it's called a get out of bed number. Like it should excite you and impel you up and out of bed to go work the deal.
Yeah. And you made a great point. Like that also weeds people out, people that you perhaps shouldn't be wasting your time with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes I ever saw and continue to see with the MSPs I consult to is well, first of all, they don't have a sales process. And once they do, they look at the process as a qualification process. And I usually invert that and say, no, our sales process, our sales motion is actually a disqualification process, such that the only place we spend our time are on the prospects that we want to do business with, right? And there's criteria and all those things for it. But just flipping the way you look at it changes the emotional state to the attachment to someone that you walk away from or that they walk away from you. Like it's okay that not everyone's a fit for you, right? And here's the reasons why. So just the mental hacks to increase the discipline and probably the emotional fortitude of handling the rejection into like, well, of course we're not going to be a fit for everyone, and I'm going to disqualify X% of the pipeline, and that's okay. It's little emotional hooks and hacks like that that you can use to increase the overall performance too, because your mind's in the right spot and you feel resilient and you're not scarce and attached to the loss.
Yeah, and rejection is a great motivator
Yeah.
of improvement.
Mm-hmm.
So not rejection and then lowering your price. Like that's not
Yeah.
the answer. Rejection means like maybe you have to improve your services. Maybe you have to just improve your sales pitch. Maybe you have to improve your messaging.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not going after the right candidates, the right industries. Like perhaps you specialize in a specific region, like hospitals or dental offices. I know MSPs hate dentists, but like maybe you're really good at that and you have a few customers and they are delighted and they pay and everything is going well. Like maybe focus on those areas and start charging more there and then branch from there if you want, if necessary. Like there's always this, you know, how big are you? How big do you want to get? Sprawl kind of thing, like suburbia.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, Mikey, I appreciate the time and the conversation so far. If anyone has been listening in and they're like, man, I want some more of that Mikey guy, or I want to go have a conversation with them, like where's the best place for people to find you online?
Sure. Well, you can check out DNS Filter at dnsfilter.com, and you can find me on almost every social platform as Road to CISO, CISO.
Okay.
I'm on my path to never becoming a CISO.
Yeah, there you go.
It's an ironic handle.
That's awesome. And then the last question is always extending the opportunity for you to ruin the next guest's day. So if you had one question that you could leave behind for the next guest on the show, what would that question be?
So I wasn't thinking about this during the conversation, which I should have been, but just going back and forth with you, and actually you've been on the DNS Filter podcast, which was a lot of fun. And I think my question is about what are you doing to create authority for yourself and your company in the space? Like us being on this podcast, like we are, you know, we like to talk, one thing. We must like to be on camera because we keep doing it.
Right.
And some people are not adept at that or think they aren't.
Sure.
But there's other ways to create authority, create a footprint, like you're increasing your luck surface area. I've heard it phrased. So what are you doing to increase your luck surface area in your market?
Yeah, I love that phrase. I hadn't heard that before, but that I can see how that works. That's a great question. I get to ask it today too on the next interview. So,
all right.
Again, Mikey, thank you so much for coming on to this episode of MSP Insider. Covered a lot of ground, and there's plenty of nuggets to pull out from anyone that was paying attention. And then again, to the audience, thank you for tuning in to the show and this episode here with Mikey. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me.